everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Scott Jorgens, Director of Marketing at Endeavor Solutions and GP Support North. We have both brands, and today's topic is talking about barcode scanning for Dynamics GP. So our agenda, as per the calendar invite, and for those that are watching the recording, thank you. We're going to be talking about the advantages of barcoding. We recently wrote a white paper on digital transformation and how to do digital transformation while staying on Dynamics GP. You do not need to move to the cloud. You can surround GP as your core ERP system with additional add-on products, add-on systems. Some could be cloud, some could be embedded inside of GP. And barcode scanning is something that has been extremely popular within our clients, both those on GP as well as those that are looking at other platforms. Really what happens with barcode scanning is you're able to quickly capture and move from the physical to the digital and back and forth. Obviously, we'll talk about the benefits and different scenarios with some live show and tell. On the line with me is Lori as well as Alex, both from Panatrack, who is one of our trusted ISV partners and add-on application. They've been around for a long time. Working with inventory management, which is in your warehouse, your manufacturing, and receiving scenarios, as well as asset tracking, those getting into field service or just tracking assets that may be in your warehouse, within your distribution centers and other areas. Why don't I put it over to yourself, Lori, and continue on from here.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Scott. We appreciate yourself and the Endeavor team for inviting us in today, and thank you to everyone on the call for joining us as well. As Scott had mentioned, my name is Lori Pauley, and I'm joined today by Alex Rode from the Panatrack Solution Consulting team. And our goal for today is to show you a solution which, deployed in a multitude of Dynamics GP environments, has helped to increase efficiency, to reduce redundant data entry processes, and ensure data accuracy, resulting in better inventory controls and reporting.
All right, thank you, Lori. Thanks, everybody. So today we'll begin with a little bit of an introduction on the Panatrack or GP side. We'll take a look at some of those transactions Lori mentioned. What you're seeing on the screen here, this is a live view of a scanner. I'm connected to my computer so you can see this happening in real time. What we've got up on the screen is just a mirrored image, and we're going to go through our transactions. Now, I always like to give you just a quick taste of the Panatrack solution before we get into the transactions. You'll notice here up top, it shows me username Alex. Well, that's me. I'm logged in. And we're going to go ahead and navigate through our transactions to first look at an item inquiry, and then we'll look at doing an inventory adjustment for that damaged inventory, like our cruise line customer certainly had to. So, using our hamburger menu on the left, we can access a list of all of the transactions available to our user. It's important to note Panatrack can configure transaction access on a per user basis. It means you can say, hey, the new guy in the port side parts shop shouldn't be able to do certain transactions. Neat features the Panatrack offers. Right here, we're going to select our item inquiry, and this is just an easy way for somebody on the scanner to pull the current and available quantities for inventory items into their warehouse. So right here on the Panatrack screen, you can tell our item field is selected. That's highlighted in purple there. And we can go ahead and we can just scan a barcode on an item if we'd like to. It's the first way we like to see that data entered on the scanner. The next way we can enter data on the scanner is with the Panatrack lookup list. Now, we're all familiar with GP. We're all familiar with clicking on that magnifying glass to make sure that we know exactly what is happening with our interaction there. But here we'll go ahead, we'll access the Panatrack lookup list like so, and you'll see Panatrack is showing our user only the available sites for that piece of inventory. We can use our type ahead filtering, which simply narrows things down based on the keys we're entering, and select our warehouse. Panatrack is now showing us our on-hand and available quantities for the warehouse site location. We can even drill down deeper if our users are enabled in a multi-bin environment. Now, of course, multi-bins aren't required, but Panatrack is something that finally will let your team take advantage of the awesome multi-bin capabilities that exist in Dynamics. I can use a lookup list. I can even use my type ahead filtering to select a bin location, which Panatrack will then show us again the available and on-hand quantities. Now, of course, we can link all sorts of different barcodes to our GP items, whether that's a UPC that's on oil for our cruise line. Maybe it's something that's on the simple green they're using when they need to consume that. We can link existing barcodes with GP item numbers. That's a native feature of Dynamics GP. But let's take a look at an inventory adjustment. So we're going to select our Remove Inventory transaction from the quick menu right there. And that takes us into our first screen. Our first screen here shows us the site location warehouse has already been populated. That's based on my Panatrack setup. Keep things nice and easy for your users. We can have default site locations. So even if you have facilities across the country, Panatrack can support that there. And then we have a network connection that has apparently dropped. So give me just a moment, folks. I do apologize. There we are. So the first thing Panatrack does after we have our site location is we can select our reason code if we so choose. Panatrack integrates directly with the Dynamics GP reason code functionality that attaches our transactions to GP to our GL accounts. When I use the lookup list on my reason code lookup, we can see I have a variety of reason codes from damaged and marketing expense to R&D, spare parts consumption, all of that good stuff. We'll go ahead, we'll select damaged to stick with Lori's example. We've got a customer who has damaged inventory on a particular warehouse. We've got to get that out of there. We can't sell that to a customer. We can't use that to repair our seagoing vessel. So right here, now that we've selected our reason code, Panatrack is asking the user to select the item that's being removed. And just like before, I can point and scan the barcode that's right in front of me to remove that from the system. Once we've selected our item, Panatrack in a multi-bin environment will of course ask the user to confirm the bin location. If we're not using multi-bins, that field wouldn't be there. We scan our bin location right off of the shelf, and Panatrack allows our user to enter in the quantity. So right here, I can put in a quantity of 25, hit the enter key on my device, and move on to my next item. Maybe I had some cleaner, and that cleaner had a small leak in it. That damaged not only the bottle of cleaner so that I can't use it, but it also damaged some parts that were underneath it. So we can add different items and different bin locations here to this transaction. And just like before, we can put in a quantity of 10. Now we've got this review screen in the review button in the upper right corner. That's going to take our user over to the review screen. You'll have to excuse me. Apparently I've got a bad USB cable. We're just going to switch over really quick and make sure that we've got all of the details we need to have there. All right. Apologies on that one, folks. So we go to our review screen here, and we can see that transaction that we just captured. So we've got our different items. We've got our different quantities. That's all recorded here. It's important to note, of course, that Panatrack can fully support lot-tracked and serial-tracked items if that's something that's relevant to your team, and that's how we have those items set up in Dynamics GP. From the Panatrack perspective, we're capturing all of these transactions, and we're creating the corresponding adjustment in Dynamics GP itself. We've got a Finalize button in the upper right corner, and this lets me show off another one of my favorite Panatrack or GP features. What you see on the screen is our signature capture capability. When we're removing inventory, in particular for this cruise ship customer, if we're pulling off parts from the stock because they need to be removed, they required that somebody sign off on that process. And so right here on the Panatrack device, we can capture that signature. Now, of course, mine's just a scribble. And then we've got our flex fields. These are configurable fields that we can use to capture additional data. We'll store this data in the Panatrack's system, and we allow you to report back on that and map that anywhere it needs to go. So maybe we'll record that Alex is the one who conducted this, and we've got chemical damage. So we'll just record those in our two flex fields and hit the submit button. As soon as we hit that submit button, you saw that number pop up on the bottom of the screen, R0087. I won't make you look at GP very much during our little session here, but I do want to show you at least the first time when it happens. Here is Dynamics GP. And when I open up my adjustment R0087, you can see right here, Panatrack has created this transaction in Dynamics in real time. Exactly what we captured on that scanner is now available here in Dynamics. Our different items we captured, our quantities, our reason codes, everything that was recorded on that scanner is created directly in Dynamics GP as part of a batch ID, in this case Panatracker GP _adjust, that's ready to be posted. There is no waiting for this to get reviewed, waiting for somebody to try to decipher the handwriting or find the notes that were passed around. With the Panatrack solution, we capture these transactions in real time and we submit them directly into Dynamics GP, making sure that you have accurate, reliable, and real-time inventory data on your Dynamics GP implementation. And with that, we'll go ahead and Lori will give us our next story.
Oh, yeah, Alex, thank you so much. Next up is a quick story about a commercial and residential contracting company. They were really struggling to know what was in stock and where it was. This caused about $1 million write-off one year. The corporate temperature was hot, to say the least, for this heating and air conditioning contractor. But putting in place regularly scheduled cycle counts and stock counting, the inventory was able to be shored up so that the shrinkage was a word of the past. They have adopted our tool and equipment tracking module, Panatracker ST, for instant tracking. And Alex, well, let's see now how Panatracker GP helped with those stock counts and how it can help our audience to shore up and save time in the inventory counting process.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead. Let's pull over onto the screen our Panatrack device again so we can watch these transactions in real time. Now, as Lori mentioned, Panatrack is leveraging the GP stock count functionality. But rather than printing off reams of paper, sending your employees out into the facility with pens and post-it notes, scribbling down numbers and trying to do their own math, Panatrack has taken that and we've put the ability to record a stock count directly on the handheld scanner, and you can put this in the hands of all of your employees out on the floor. The Panatracker GP stock count functionality is going to give you real-time, paperless validation of your stock counts. So right here, we'll go to our quick menu again. We're going to select our stock count transaction like so. And now we're ready to begin. It's important on the Panatrack, for the Panatrack device here, to show you just how easy it is for our users to undertake these stock counts. We're removing any of that burden of carrying paper and deciphering things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the stock count that we're undertaking. Now the stock count lookup here, we can select with our lookup list and it'll show us all of the available stock counts that have been started in Dynamics. Now in our case, we're going to go with my very creatively titled demo count. Once we've selected that, we need to tell the system which site location, and in my case, which bin location we're counting. Now again, this is based directly on the GP stock count schedule and stock count entry platforms. Because this is a multi-bin environment, I do need to fill in that bin location. If you're not using multi-bins, you wouldn't have to worry about that. Once we've selected the site location we're counting, Panatrack asks our user to begin scanning the items that are being counted. Now, of course, rather than scrolling through a list of paper and trying to find the items in front of them, with Panatrack, our user can simply point and scan the item that they see in front of them. When they scan that item, we can go ahead and we can record a count here. Let's record a count of 29. And we hit enter on the scanner, we're ready to move on. Now, of course, we may want our users to be able to see what's coming on that count. So our lookup list on that item field shows the user all of the different items that are part of that stock count. And you'll notice right here, all these items on the top of the list show a quantity of 0. This is, of course, by default, a blind count. Now, we do have some ability to show the user the quantities they should expect, but we find about 99% of our customers prefer this to be a blind count. The item we've counted, our classic 128 SD RAM, well, that is all the way at the bottom of the list. Panatrack syncs the items that we've counted down to the bottom. Now, that's not to say that you can't add more to that count, and we'll do that in just a moment. But the first thing we'll do is we'll select a line item from our lookup list by tapping on it. And now we can go ahead and we can enter in a quantity. I can say I see 422 of this item on the shelf. And we hit enter. And our user continues on our way. We scan our next item. Right here, just like that, we scan this item and we can record a quantity of 350. When we go to that lookup list, these items have now sunk down to the bottom of the list, and the quantities that we've entered on the scanner are reflected right there for our user to see. If we have more than one user going about their stock count, we'll continue adding to these. Now, it's important to note, Panatrack is feeding these transaction counts directly into the stock count window in GP. So we're going to take a very quick look at that here. Get GP pulled over onto the screen, and we can see Panatrack is showing us all of our different line items and counts. Now you can see we're coming up a little bit short on a few of these items. 200 short here, 21 short there. Let's go ahead, let's get GP back off the screen. Let's look at what happens when we find more of an item out in the warehouse. Now normally if we're doing this by hand, somebody has to either scribble out the number and retotal it up. Sometimes they'll give a little plus sign and then, plus 45. And when it's your turn to sit there and enter that into GP or an Excel sheet, well, then you have to do the math. But with Panatrack, we actually give the user the ability right here. When they scan an item that's already been counted, either by them or another member of the team, we're going to pop up this very easy to understand message. It says this has already been counted. We can give the user the ability to add to the existing count, replace the existing count, or cancel. We know sometimes we might scan that and we'll go, oh, I just counted this. It's a Friday morning. Maybe I'm not right where I need to be there. And they can say, I already counted this one. But in our case, let's say add. Let's add a quantity of 200. And just like you'd expect now, we've increased that quantity from 350 to 550 as represented here in the Panatrack lookup list. Panatrack captures all of this data. We feed this directly into Dynamics GP every step of the way. If you're counting inventory that is tracked by a lot number or by a serial number, well, life gets a lot easier when you implement a solution like Panatrack. We've even added features to the stock count capability. The stock count capability means that when we scan an item that's tracked by a lot number or a serial number, we can give the user this particular field right here, the pre-count quantity. This is something GP doesn't offer you, but the pre-count quantity allows our user to total up the sum of all of the lot tracked inventory items they see in front of them in this location. And they can enter that quantity in. Now we're going to go ahead with 285, hit that enter key, and we get a message that says this is an exact match. Do you want to mark all of your lots as verified for this item? Very simply, we're saying that if everything that we see in front of us matches what GP expects for our lot or our serial tracked inventory, we can verify all of those quantities at once. If we say no, or if we're off by even a quantity of just 284, and we hit enter, Panatrack tells the user this does not match. Now we need to validate all of our lot numbers, all of our serial numbers, just like we would do if we were undertaking this count with pen and paper. That being said, the GP stock count does feed directly into Dynamics GP. Make sure all of that's updated and available in real time. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at our next story.
Excellent, Alex. Thank you. And I know the customer was very happy when their inventories were right spot on every count. But let's change gears just a little bit, as many healthcare and bioscience organizations have also found value in Panatrack or GP. In effect, inventory is brought into a central supply and then dispersed throughout various stock rooms, departments, like, perhaps the ER, nursing stations, the lab, or OR. And it's really a hub and spokes type model We also find this similarly in supply chain organizations where a central warehouse supplies the spoke entities. One particular client needed to gauge replenishment in these various areas. Let's take a look in with Alex to see how Panatrack or GP solves that dilemma of ensuring that critical stock levels are in place when and where they're needed. Alex?
All right, thanks, Lori. So we're going to look at the directed transfer infrastructure for Panatrack or GP. We'll go through this a little bit quickly just to make sure we can cover everything. But of course, if you got questions, you're welcome to hold on to them till the end here. So the first thing we'll talk about is the ability to conduct a directed transfer with the Panatrack solution. This means we can create requests that will generate an internal pick list that lets our users go out and select the exact items that are requested in the warehouse so they can be transferred over. No more guessing and hoping that we're sending over everything that somebody needs. With the Panatrack directed transfer infrastructure, we can create those pick lists and make sure our users are getting exactly what they've requested. Now, there's a few ways to create a directed transfer. We have our portal entry functionality. That happens through our Panatrack portal. It's that transaction logging configuration database, and users can go in and actually manually create a transfer request in that portal, line by line, item by item, if that's going to benefit their team. Once that transaction has been created, we can approve that request if we'd like to turn on our approval functionality. It's also important to note here that our directed transfer infrastructure does give you the ability to use a VIA or an in-transit site location. So we can configure to do an a transfer pick where we can make sure the correct items are pulled from the shelf. We can send that through a VIA site and actually process an inbound transfer receipt on the other end of things. Now, for today's functionality, we're just going to look at a few steps on that. But in addition to entering those transactions through our Panatrack portal, we can create that transfer request directly from our handheld scanner. And we're going to take a look at that transaction in just a moment. Once that transaction is submitted, our user then has the ability to go in and submit that request directly into the Panatrack system. And the final and probably the most popular way, especially the one that was used for this particular client Lori was telling us about here, is the automated request infrastructure. And what it does is it actually generates a request based on set levels in Dynamics GP. So we know that if certain items drop below a certain level, we're going to put in a transfer request to move more inventory into the facility. So with that said, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at that transfer request transaction on our Panatrack scanner. So once again, we're taking a look at our device here and our transfer request transaction. As you can see, it does give us the ability to request our to and from locations, create and edit new orders. All of our Panatrack transactions support different units of measure and real-time item validation. So on our scanner, let's go ahead here. We're going to skip our order field because we're not editing an order. We're going to create a new one. And we're going to request this inventory comes from our warehouse. Very creative names here. And we're going to send that to our north location. So using our lookup lists and our type ahead filtering, we've populated that. Now our user has the ability to go out and start scanning the items that need to be transferred. So right here, I can go and I can scan my first item. We know that we're going to need this item, and I'm going to need 65 of this. In addition to that item, we can use, to our scanning into our item field, we can use our lookup list. We can see all of the different items that are part of that inventory. So we select our 24X IDE, and we're going to need 16 of those. When we hit the Enter key, our Panatrack builds this all into our review screen, just like you would expect. Let's go ahead, let's add a couple of more items to this particular transaction. So we'll scan our 128 SD RAM, we'll request 14 of those. And finally, we will request 10 of our volumetric flask. And when we look at that review screen, you can see Panatrack shows our user all of those items. and we can hit the submit button. We've now got a transaction request number 6 that has been entered into the system, and our users can go ahead and take a look and be ready to pick that particular transaction. Now, I mentioned that Panatrack creates these transaction requests, and we can do an approval process. So right here in our Panatrack portal, we're looking at our directed transfer entry. And you can see here, we've got a request from Alex, that's me. We've got a status, a transaction code, a date, all of that's right there. We can hit the approve button, and we have now approved our directed transfer so that it can be picked on our scanner. Now, whether it's me doing this on my device or another user doing this, we can go to our directed transfer pick transaction. We know that we're picking from our warehouse, so we're going to use our type ahead filtering, select warehouse, and we need to tell the system what order it is that we're going to go ahead and be picking. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and use our lookup list to select DRT49. We know it's going to our north site location. Now, I don't have a via site configured here. We're not picking through that. We're going to pick this all to bin dock 1 at the north warehouse, and we can hit the pick button. This takes us into our screen. We're now ready to go out and pick all of these different items. Panatrack tells the user exactly what item is requested. We can even tell the user what bin that should be coming from. And then we're on to our scan to validate field. Now, the scan to validate field is where we make sure we're picking the correct item for this order. I can record my quantity of 14, and Panatrack moves us on to our next field. So just like that, we have the ability to go ahead and scan the barcode for our next item. Need to select our bin location. Actually, let's take a look at that bin lookup real quick, show you something neat. Panatrack actually tells the user and shows the user all of the bins with the expected quantities. So I can select my bin location, scan my barcode, and then we're on to our quantity field once again. We enter in our 16, and we move on. If our user only picks part of that line item, so we're supposed to pick 65, if I pick 50, right here, Panatrack updates those quantities in real time. Now, you're going to see a screen that looks very similar to this in our order fulfillment transaction in a little while here, but you can see Panatrack is keeping the user honest. If we try to pick the wrong item, it tells our user this doesn't match the line chosen for picking. We need to scan the correct item. If you order a particular size, a particular color, a particular anything at all, Panatrack is going to make sure that the correct item, correct widget is being picked. Now, you'll notice when I keyed in the wrong quantity there, Panatrack did stop us. We need to make sure that the users are picking exactly what's expected of them every step of the way. So we scan our next item. We pick our quantity of 10, and Panatrack takes us to that review screen where it shows us all of our different line items. They're all color-coded blue, telling us that they've been fulfilled to completion, and we can hit the submit button. When we hit that submit button, Panatrack has created the transfer in Dynamics GP. That inventory is ready to be moved. Once that transfer posts, it's available at our new site location. If we send this through a via site, an in-transit location, then Panatrack does have an inbound receive transfer transaction that can be utilized to capture that data. All of this happens in real time on the scanner, with item validation happening every step of the way. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at our next story, or our next transaction. I'm sorry, we did our directed transfer pick, and we'll go ahead and take a look at our next story. Lori.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, and this functionality has been very successful, of course, not only for those folks in healthcare that need to move goods based on maybe bin replenishments if they have a 2-bin system, or even for those who have Kanban as part of their process as well in various other industries. So with that, though, let's kind of change focus here again. So when there's a job to do, our contractor series enables those using GP project accounting or perhaps KeyDAC jobs and service to receive directly to the job. It also allows us to transfer to the job and return any leftover items back to inventory. By doing so, we always have a handle on parts utilized for the job, even capturing a signature, as you've already seen demonstrated. By employing the Panatracker ST solution, which of course is our ST module, as well, Panatracker offers a full circle tracking mechanism for your tools and equipment, consigned inventories, check-in, check-out, even maintenance scheduling. And for a personalized demonstration of Panatracker ST, of course, circle back with your Endeavor contact to get this set up for you. And with that, Alex, let's take a little bit more deeper look at how that transfer to job works.
Excellent. So let's go ahead. Let's get our device pulled up on the screen once again. Sorry, folks. I got to drag that across a couple monitors here. And we're into the Panatracker GP solution once again. So let's take a look at the two different ways we can capture job and project information. The first thing we're going to look at on this front is going to be with the Panatrack solution. We're going to go to Inventory. We can scroll down and we can select Project Transfer. When I select Project Transfer here, this is using our Panatracker GP project accounting integration. So we've got the ability to select from a list of our available projects. We can even select our different cost categories. Panatrack is pulling all of this detail and transaction data directly out of GP. When we go on to the next screen, now we can begin issuing inventory items to our project. And when we use that lookup, Panatrack will show the user all of the different items and the expected quantities remaining for that project. We build this data in real time. As we scroll down, when we get to our bin field here, once again, Panatrack can tell the user the location and quantities available of that inventory item. We enter in our 10, and it moves us back up to our item field. If we use that lookup list, you'll now notice our 500 proc there. That shows us 10 of 50 have been issued. We select our multi-conductor wire, and it's the same thing. We can go to our bins. We can see there's a handful of these available. With the lot tracked inventory item or a serial tracked inventory item, Panatrack will, of course, require the user to record the lot number that they're issuing or the serial number that they're issuing. When we record that, whether it's through a lookup list or a barcode scan, and we submit that quantity, our review screen shows us those details, 10, 100. We can hit submit on the scanner, and we create that project transfer transaction right there from the Panatrack device. Those feed directly into Dynamics GP, making sure that our users see all of this data happening in real time, submitting all of that directly into Dynamics. So it's GP's project accounting, but let's go ahead. Let's take a look at Panatrack's Key to Act integration as well, because we know that some users are running project accounting, others are running Key to Act, and we want to make sure that that happens. So we're going to switch over devices. We've got a new device pulled up, one with our Key to Act integration implemented, and we're going to take care of that just like we did before. So with this, we'll use our remove inventory transaction, and it's going to look very similar. It's my demo environment. I try to keep things a little simpler for my own sanity. And we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at exactly what's going to happen with our Key to Act integration. So the first thing we do is we confirm the site location. Once again, defaulted from my Panatrack settings. Now we have the ability to select our type of adjustment, whether it's a job or a project. We're going to accept our job that was auto-populated, again, based on a Panatrack setting. We can select our ID number right here. We can also scan an ID number into the system. If we happen to have a book or a barcode or something that tells us here's what we're doing, we can scan that right in. Once we scan that in, we can select our cost center. We do that, and now just like before, we're ready to begin building that transaction out. When we use our lookup, Panatrack shows us all of those different items and the expected quantities that we need. So the available quantities. So I can capture that I'm issuing 25 of our 128 SD RAM. Once again, I can use that lookup and we can see all of these different inventory items that are available for us to issue to this Key to Act job or project. Now, of course, if you'd like to get deeper into Key to Act functionality and the integrations that Panatrack offers there, reach out to the Endeavor team, let them know. but we can scan our items and we can build this transaction out just like you would expect. When we go to our review screen, just like before, Panatrack shows us all of those details. Right here, we see 10, 25, 8. If we were issuing out something that was tracked by a lot number or by a serial number, just like before, Panatrack would record and validate that data. Now, if we hit the finalize button, we once again can turn on that signature capture capability. So right here, I can say, Alex is the one doing this. Pardon my messy finger writing here. And again, we've got our flex fields available to us. We hit that submit button and we get that transaction code to pop up on the screen. New device, first time I booted it up today, takes an extra moment. But as we see that happen, Panatrack records all of that data right into Dynamics and right into the key to act transaction. Now, the one thing I do want to show you very quickly here is in that Panatrack portal, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the signature that we just captured there, 2:24, 10:38 a.m. This is our transaction record. Here's my rather messy finger signature that Panatrack recorded. Everything that happens on our scanner is created directly in Dynamics GP with a corresponding carbon copy recorded in the Panatrack portal. That's going to be a very brief overview of our job and project integration for the Panatrack or GP solution. Now, Lori is going to give us a little bit of a story here on our...
Keeping our customers happy, huh? Isn't that what we all want to do? Of course, yeah. And this is actually one of my favorites because I simply love their products. This client manufactures and distributes pure and natural goat milk skincare products, and they do this through a number of various distribution channels. They came to us with their challenges tied around picking, packing, and shipping of product. Wrong product was being shipped out to customers, inventory levels were unpredictable, and so on. And so they also were having manufacturing related issues due to inconsistencies, I think, in inventory levels. Now, Panatracker also does support transactions related to GP manufacturing, to assembly, as well as horizon and vicinity manufacturing solutions. We're not going to be taking a look actually at the manufacturing pieces today, but if your company is involved with manufacturing, certainly connect with Endeavor to get something set up so we can review those with you. But we do have support, of course, for the manufacturing areas. But this is how Panatracker GP has helped to transform the order fulfillment process for this particular customer so that it now runs smooth as silk, just like their lotions. So Alex, now if you would take us through how easy it is to process orders and also how verification while packing helps to keep our customers happy.
Definitely. Let's take a look at why it's so important to keep the smiling faces on those customers. So we'll go ahead, we'll pull our device back over onto the screen, and we're going to take a look at the two transactions that are part of the Panatracker order fulfillment module. We've got our fulfill order or pick transaction, and then we'll look at our verification or our pack transaction that can be utilized if you want to generate packing list information. So we'll go to our fulfill order screen first. And we're into our first transaction, the first screen of our transaction here. Now you'll notice up top, folks, we've got 3 filter locations. These filters are site, batch, and shipment method. This gives, excuse me, this gives our user on the scanner the ability to narrow down the orders that they would like to be picking. We can do something like use our batch ID filter and filter down to only orders that are in the ready to pick batch. This way you can narrow that down. You can put priority pick batches together, all sorts of great stuff. Then we'll go to our order field. Now we've got some customers who still like to have a paper traveling pick list that they use, and they've actually barcoded the order number on the top of that report. Other users may want to see the lookup list and have the ability to select which order they're going to go out and fulfill. When I hit the lookup list on our order field here, you're going to see we have a handful of orders available to us, and you'll notice they're sorted by date. We've got our oldest order sitting up there at the top. Looks like I've been ignoring that one since, actually, since my younger brother's birthday there. Let's hope his gift wasn't part of that one. We can scroll down. We can see our order 1139 going to Adam Park Resort. We're going to select that. Now, Panatrack, if we had any document notes available on this, can be utilized to display that information here. So our general order level notes can be displayed, and we hit that pick button. And that takes us into a screen that's going to look pretty similar to something we saw already. Because we built that directed transfer pick transaction on a very similar architecture, you're seeing it just like before. Panatrack tells the user the first line item, and it can even tell them the bin location if we're using multi-bins. Now, we have a variety of different sort orders for the pick list. I have them sorted by bin location, so my user has one path through the warehouse. Start at the first bin, end at the last bin, and pick everything in between. So we confirm the bin we're pulling from, and we're into that scan to validate field. Again, if we scan the wrong barcode, Panatrack stops the user in their tracks, will not let them continue until they accept that that is not the correct item to pick. We scan the barcode to make sure we're pulling the right quantity, the right color, the right size, whatever that may be, and we can enter in a quantity. Just like before, if I enter in 10, Panatrack updates that, shows us there's 15 remaining to be picked. So we scan it again, we pull our 15 off the shelf, and we can move on to our next line item. So right here, we're on to our next line item, and you can tell, folks, I use all the same items. It keeps my sanity in a demo environment. And this has moved us down now to bin A2004. And I need to scan the barcode to confirm that it's the right item I'm picking, and I enter in my quantity. Now watch what happens if I try to overpick for this order. Panatrack stops the user. We say that is too high for the remaining quantity. We will not let the user overpick for that order based on my settings. When we enter our 50, that's great. It moves us on. And just like that, we continue on our way, scanning our barcodes, picking our items. Now, I've enabled a neat feature to show you all today, something we don't always get to show off. But right here, if I pick a quantity of, let's say, 32 of this item, there's 35 expected. Panatrack shows us there's a quantity of 3 remaining. We've got a really neat setting in the Panatrack solution where I can actually require the user to scan the barcode for each line item we pick at a certain quantity. I've said if it's less than 5, each time you scan the barcode, I want that to count as a quantity of 1. So you'll notice I scan, you hear the beep, it increases our quantity. This can be set on a global level, or it can be set with a percentage tolerance. And this setting can be configured across the whole Panatrack solution as far as scan to count 1. Just like at the grocery store, even if you buy 6 of the same, box of rice, they scan it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to make sure they're getting every one of them. We strive for that accuracy, and we strive for that reliability on the Panatrack system. Now, right here, you're seeing a record of exactly what we just captured. Panatrack is showing you all of the line items, showing us that we've picked all of the correct quantities, making sure everything has been recorded in real time. We see that that's available here. We can even click in, and we can see Panatrack will show us each time we entered in a quantity for that item. We keep a record of each scan. We hit the submit button, and we have now marked that order as fulfilled in GP. Of course, again, if we're dealing with serial tracked or lot tracked items, Panatrack will validate those every step of the way. And that's our order fulfillment transaction right there. Panatrack makes sure that we see this happen, and we update that in real time. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our order verify transaction. So the order verify transaction is where we can go ahead and we can generate a packing list if we need to. So looking at our order verify transaction, we're going to go orders from our slide out menu on the left. Now, of course, I have my demo environment, so it's everything in the kitchen sink turned on. And we're going to select verify order. Now, this is where we can generate a packing list. We're going to scan the order number off of our paper traveler. We've got a Panatrack flex field available if we'd like to capture data. And we hit the verify button. Now, here is where our user is going to start recording shipping box data. We've all seen it on Amazon packages. If you look, there's usually a barcode in the bottom corner of the bubble envelope or on the side of the box. And that barcode represents the box ID. It's how we know exactly what items went into which box. When we scan our Panatrack item, the first thing it does is it verifies that that item is part of our Panatrack order. And then it shows us the quantity, and we need to go ahead and we need to enter in what quantity of that we are packing into our box. So we're going to pack 25 of our item and scan the box identifier. Now, sometimes these are serialized barcodes. Sometimes they're generic barcodes. There's plenty of ways to do this, and we'd be happy to review those with you in a demonstration. It doesn't have to be a box, of course. It could be a crate. It could be a container. It could be a pallet, something that identifies that level of container that we're building up. We scan our next item, and here we're going to put 15 of these into our box, but now that box is full. We've got no more room. So we're going to hit here and close that box up. Now our user can scan the next item. We've got 20 remaining, and we're going to put all 20 of those into our next box that we assemble. It's got a serialized barcode on it as a unique identifier, and we've packed that item up. When we scan this item here, we put a quantity of 25 into that box. Just like before, Panatrack shows us those details. It moves us on. If I try to scan an item that was not part of that order, like so, Panatrack stops the user. We say this is not part of the sales order. We, of course, have a lookup list that shows our user any of the different items that are part and remaining to be packed. So you'll notice it shows us 25 of 50 remaining. We've got that review screen, which again shows us an easy color-coded list. Line items in blue have been verified to completion. Line items in red have yet to be verified completely. So we'll go back, we'll scan that item, and we're going to put the remaining quantity of 25, right back into that same box that we just packed up. Now we know that we've got 2 boxes for this order. We can even see this item has been added to all the first box. This item here has its quantity split between both boxes. All of that data is recorded on the Panatrack solution, and we record that directly into our Panatrack ship pack tables. Those ship pack tables can be used to generate packing lists. They can be used for an integration with a shipping solution like B Technology Starship. There's plenty of capability there. And of course, we're happy to get into any details on that in a personalized demo for you and your organization. With that said, that concludes my portion of talking at you folks. We're going to hand this back over to Lori. She's going to talk a little bit to us about what it's like to implement the Panatracker GP solution. Lori?
Yes, thank you, Alex. And if those in our audience have identified with any of our stories today, then maybe you're thinking, well, how long does it take to get this working in my environment? So suffice to say, with Panatracker GP, because we are leveraging the Dynamics GP database, much of the configuration as far as how inventory behaves is already done inside of your GP database. So with the help of the Endeavor team and the Panatracker team, which has a lauded support and technical services team, we're happy to go down that path with you together. Of course, we've been implementing solutions since 1996, so we're always ready to step forward and work with you as well. Next slide, Alex. We'll just kind of recap here real quickly. So what we've learned today is, with item validation and detail capture, Panatracker GP ensures that orders and picking are accurate and on time. Additionally, items are fulfilled when picked and not ahead of time, allowing inventory to represent your warehouse with enhanced accuracy. The use of barcoding and order picking will increase customer satisfaction and also reduces wasted costs of resolving issues. So with that, I think we'll hand off back over to Scott to bring us home. Scott?
Fantastic. Thanks very much. That was a fantastic demo and splitting out by each of the different usage scenarios. Thank you so much, Lori and Alex. For those on the line, we can in the Canadian dollars, probably start as low as $15,000. US dollars, obviously, with the exchange rates a little bit different. But yeah, a little bit of money for buying the scanners, a little bit of money for getting the label and the printer apps, a little bit of money for the Panatrack subscription, and then a little bit of money for the implementation. And all those little pieces add up, and this is something that can really be set up quick and simple for any one of those individual scenarios. And then obviously, as the complexity grows and as your usage expands, then added investments are a great way to take a phased approach to barcode scanning within your organization. So those that are new to Endeavor and those that are valued clients, we're now up to close to 700 clients across Canada and the US, working for over 30 years in Microsoft Dynamics, ERP, CRM, and cloud applications. And of course, consultants working with you day to day, either in the pre-sales or with clients in annual reviews and ongoing innovation through webinars such as this. The advisory services, working directly or working with our partners for implementing add-on components or new systems, and then always the ongoing optimization and support, and we're here to help. Next slide, just for those that want to reach out, you can find us online, www.endeavorsolutions.ca, www.gpsupportnorth.com, and Trish, James, and Steve can help you out for current discussions, future discussions. As always, we can also pull in Lori and Alex for deeper dives around Panatrack and working with Dynamics GP. So thank you, Lori. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Scott. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye now.